Hi and welcome to the Charge Attack podcast, the very first instalment as well, so welcome if you're brand new, which you will be because it's the first time. We've got some really important news to bring out for video games this week. It's quite an important one as well, but we'll get onto some of that later on. First of all, this week, March 22nd, we have got the release of Sekiro. Obviously, they're made by the company From Software, most famously known for their Blood Souls games. Okay, so this game is based in Japan in 1986, of which it's an action-adventure, which means that there's no RPG elements. They've come out and said that quite a lot because it's just such a massive takeaway from what the Blood Souls games are well known for. However, there is more stealth involved, so it's going to be something that's going to take a nice and interesting turn. So I'm here with my colleague. What are you hoping for from Sekiro? Like, what do you want it to bring to the table that the Blood Souls games haven't taken from in the past?
That's a tricky one because the Dark Souls games have always been, and the Blood Souls games have always been very good at covering a very wide range of aspects of their games. They've got obviously that the hack and slash aspect of it on certain character builds. You've got a slight sort of take on stealth with the backstabs, but never really sort of introduced like a sort of a sneak sort of animation or something like that. So that would be interesting to see how they go with that. That's something I think I'm quite looking forward to go forward with the game.
Do you reckon that they'll still have the different class systems? Because obviously at the moment you can just build, obviously in Blood Souls you can build pretty much any class, obviously more so in the Dark Souls than the Blood game, but you can build like different builds, you can have magic and all of that. Is that going to be something that you reckon it's going to be more openly available, or do you reckon it'll be just more restricted?
I think it's more restricting. With the removal of the RPG element of it, it's going to be a case of here's your character, you make do with what you've got. You can't build your character to do certain things like you can in the Blood Souls games, like you can't max out your health and wear the bulkiest of armors. You've got to dodge when you're supposed to or block when you're supposed to. You can't tackle a situation in a different way than what the game wants you to do so. Yeah. So I think that's going to put quite a different spin on things because people can't rely then on characters with maximum health and just tanking every single little hit. They might have to adapt their gaming strategy to be able to beat certain bosses, which will be interesting because it's going to be a learning curve for a lot of people.
Are you hoping for more story elements? Because I've obviously through the Dark Souls and the Bloodborne game, there is a story there. It's very, very vague. It's not very openly like talked about. It's all basically lore based. You have to look into the game to find it.
A lot of reading, a lot of going back and talking to people.
Yeah.
It's not thrown in your face. You don't get very many cutscenes that don't
actually explain something.
Yeah, it's introduce a boss that's gonna kill you in about 5 minutes time.
Yeah.
It's very much a game you've got to read into it. You've got to look into it. Listen to what the characters are saying. You can't skip their conversations lines, otherwise you will miss something. Yeah. And you've constantly got to go back and speak to them, otherwise they might end up dead 3 bosses later and you don't even know why, as happened to me several times. So that would be interesting to see if it is a little bit like directed. You've got like this mission, you go here, do that sort of thing. I'm hoping it doesn't go too much down that route because that will become like every sort of like very much like a hack and slash game. I'm not looking for like levels. I'm very like interested in the open world aspect where you can travel between areas, things like that. But it would be nice for a bit more story, maybe a little bit more sort of forced interactions with other players that give you, not other players I should say, other characters, NPCs that give you a little bit of an insight to sort of maybe recent events in the game or what's happening going forward. Not too much, but just enough so that you're following and you know why you're killing this thing or
it's not so much just. I mean, Dark Souls, obviously, there was always a reason for most of the things that you killed, and most of the big, scary beasts that were, like, you ended up fighting them. There was always a particular reason why. That in the lore, you could always find some sort of reason. You'd end up finding out that this person was linked to this other enemy that you killed, like you're saying.
Yes.
And so much further down the line, it turns out that everybody's obviously linked in for a reason. It's just hoping that it brings that sort of across to it. Because they've done such. The storytelling is really interesting and intricate, and it is a lot of it is all community driven, where everybody then finds out certain bits of information, they all link it together, everybody passes on the information, and obviously the story is structured from there. And they've done it so well, but it's going to be weird to think that if they've brought this game and they're making it, if they're changing it up a little bit, or if they're wanting to go a completely different direction. Let's hope that they just don't lose the storytelling details, that they have made this standpoint for how their games are told. They don't want to lose that sort of standpoint, but they want to give it all a fresh feel, potentially.
That's very much sort of the Dark Souls, like the basis of the game. You are almost thrown into it, not knowing what's good, what's best to do, what's not good to do. And you learn as you go.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see that return to a degree, so you can sort of learn as you go without it being, oh, here's this world, it's full of enemies, go kill them. That would then just ruin sort of the aesthetic of the whole thing. There'd be like no point to any action that you do. Yeah. So I think it'd be nice to have a bit of an in between. Yeah.
So what do you not want them to bring across? Because obviously they've got. Obviously, in all the other ones, when you died, you lost all your souls. You had to half of the challenge was bloody getting back to your old corpse and being able to survive just a little bit longer to get those level ups or whatever. But because obviously that's been taken out, now there's, depending on under certain strict conditions, which we have yet to find out because we have yet to play the game, is there are ways that you can be come back to life within a fight to have a second chance at beating your enemy. That's obviously something new that they've brought in, something completely different, which is obviously means that because there's no souls or anything like that, there's no need necessary. There's nothing that's necessary for you to go back to your grave once you've died. What do you think that they should avoid bringing over from the Dark Souls or the Blood Souls games? They're so unique that it's almost hard to pinpoint what they shouldn't bring over, because they're amazing games for what they are, and that's what makes them, what helps structure them so well. The crushing difficulty is obviously what makes it good. A lot of people won't like the insane difficulty, but I don't think From Software are going to go away from that point. I think they like the idea that these games they're so much more rewarding when you're playing through them, because once you beat that larger enemy, then you've got that chance, and that's probably where sort of like the ability to come back into a fight and fight the same enemy again, if you're under these strict conditions. I think that pretty much to me is saying, oh yeah, we've still got this hard difficulty, and there's a small chance you can have a 2 lives to take him down, but that's going to be it. So to me, it seems like
make you use those lives.
They're going to make it such an important game mechanic, and it's going to be like all the other Dark Souls games where you make yourself. You give yourself your humanity or your what's the
embering in
the third one, where it gives you that boost of health, or it gives you the chance to summon other people to help you. It's such an important role that they've brought it in. They have those there so that when you get to that hard boss battle and you go in and you have a couple of tries and a couple of fights and you learn their attack patterns, and then you go, right, that's it, I'm going to go in for the proper attempt now. So then you pop your humanity, you ember yourself, just to give yourself that much of an extra chance. Now obviously Bloodborne didn't have that, but that game was just really mean anyway, let's be honest.
Yeah, that was out to get you. And it did. It got us good. Yeah. There are very few things that are in those games that aren't there for a specific reason or have some sort of a context to the whole game. So the things that, like the humanity, the embering, it makes sense. There's context behind that. It's not just a case of do this because it does that. It's a case of if you're going to do this, you're going to get something out of it.
Yeah.
There's only things that I wouldn't like to see brought over from this, which I doubt.
Move up.
The only thing that I don't think will be what you want to see coming over, which I think will be taken out anyway because of its. If I'm remembering correctly, it's remove the multiplayer aspect of it. Will be happy to not see the annoying messages from other players.
Oh, see, I like those messages because they were always
fun, but they were either placed in the worst of places when you're trying to pick up your item, you're constantly switching, or it would just give you the ass of information. Like the amount of times it's jump here and you instantly jump off a ledge.
Yeah, but that's where it was fun because you could get those messages where it says on the floor, it's just watch behind you, and you would either go, oh, okay then, I will watch behind me. You watch behind you, and it turns out something was in front of you. It's just one of those things. It adds that extra level of depth, and that's where not many other games do that sort of thing, if any.
I
give
can't
you
think
that
of any
option.
game that does it.
It's that's I think is a fun mechanic.
It was fun, but I don't think it's required, and I don't think it would work in this game without the whole dynamic of worlds overlapping and the bonfire system.
Yeah,
I don't think having that in this game would throw up a lot of questions as to why it's there. And without the multiplayer aspect, there would be no real reason for it. Obviously, the signs when you're summoning and things like that, they were in relation to obviously similar to the messages that are placed. Without the need to summon another player from other your friends list and things like that, having those messages on the floor would be. There's no online servers for it, so I highly doubt there's going to be any sort of messaging platform for that. But it wouldn't add to the gameplay, I don't feel.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that game comes out this Friday on March the 22nd. We should be live streaming it from 5 o'clock GMT time, which is English time, the best time. Other games coming out nearby is on the 26th, which is the Tuesday of next week. Final Fantasy VII is coming out again. Woo! For the Switch and for Xbox. I've played Final Fantasy VII through many, many times. I do very much enjoy that. I've probably bought it the best part of about 5 times. I don't think I'll be buying it again, though. As much as it would be really good on Switch, I've already bought it too many times, and I enjoy it, and it's a great game, but with the Switch has got already so many brilliant and unique releases that whenever I do pick up the Switch, if I want to play it on the move, I've got enough Switch games to keep me orientated for a long time. However, it coming out on Xbox means that it's hitting a lot of different fans as well. And it can be said for the Switch that it is going to be hitting a few different fans. There is that opening is quite unique, I would say. Is you've got the people that have played Final Fantasy VII would have originally played it on Sony PlayStation. It was also available on PC, and then it's been available on PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, PSP. All of the Sony platforms basically have had this availability. The problem that them releasing it on Switch and on Xboxes is I think that the target audience is quite limited. If you've played the game before, because it's quite an old game, then you might be interested in playing it again. That's absolutely perfect. But those people might also already be on Sony and have re-downloaded it. However, somebody that's always played Xbox or always played Nintendo consoles and never bought into the other Lifeline, they never would have played it before. So what makes them want to come back and try it? Obviously, there's a lot of positivity to it, but it is a very dated and old-looking game now. There is very little chance of somebody that has predominantly been an Xbox player, never been that interested in the Final Fantasy series, then hearing about this being released and wanting to go into it. You've played... How many Final Fantasy games have you played?
Not one in full.
Not one in full. So you had a go at Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
Any others?
There's one I did play on Xbox, the 360. 13?
13.
Maybe.
Yep.
You start off as a girl on a train.
Yep, that's lightning.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 coming out. As I have voiced to you many and many of times. Have you ever wanted to pick it up and play it?
No, in all honesty.
No.
But not because I don't like the game, it's purely because I don't know enough about the franchise or the earlier games to have formed an opinion of it.
Right.
I think the games, what I've seen, look very interesting, but it's never a game I've sort of gotten into myself. I've tried to with the latest one that came out.
15, yeah.
With 15. I did enjoy what I played, but it did fizzle out for me after a while.
Yeah. But
I definitely see what people are drawn to it.
So most people would proclaim 15 as a good game. Very good game. A lot of people do not think that it even shines a light compared to Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 for some people. Those are like the pinnacle of where Square Enix and Squaresoft made their Final Fantasy games, which is something that if you wanted to get into them, they would be absolutely that you would be rewarded. Well, because they are amazing games. However, this is the problem: is they are quite old, they are quite dated. The other bit of news that obviously comes with that is Final Fantasy VII is getting a remake, as everybody in the world knows, and I'm sure you're aware of.
Oh yeah.
So this may be sort of like a build-up to it. If down the line, when you come to E3, if Square Enix actually do something worthwhile watching this year, then they might announce something for Final Fantasy VII. It may get the player base to sort of go, okay, well, this is a remake, because obviously it's obviously done well. They might be more inclined to then pick up the Switch copy and give it a go. That's something to take from it. The other thing that also comes along with it is Final Fantasy VII is being released on Switch. Final Fantasy IX was released on Switch approximately just over a month and a bit ago. Okay, Final Fantasy VIII, though, which is beloved by a lot of fans, has had no love at all. So that is another thing just to be wary of. Unfortunately, no one seems to know the actual reason why. It's all just skeptical. But that's something that is
going to tick off a lot of potential fans.
Yeah.
I think. Like, I'm not going to just want a couple of my favourite games. I'm going to want all of them.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo have a strange way of ticking off a lot of fans in the weirdest of ways, especially when it comes to older games. I'm not sure how much aware you are of these sorts of things, but like in the past, obviously Nintendo has a lot of games where they've released them on like the NES, the SNES. You've got like Nintendo 64, and people would emulate these games because they wanted to play them. Like a lot of modern day people that are under the age of 20 would never have had a chance to get an SNES or an NES and play a lot of their games. So what happened is that a lot of people then started emulating them as their own way to play them. And then what Nintendo did, and you can understand why, is they basically said, no, look, you shouldn't be emulating our games, especially selling them for money. We're going to shut that down, which is fine. You can see where they're coming from with that. However, then what Nintendo don't do is then Nintendo don't re-release them as a way for people to be able to play them. So you've now got this conflicting argument where people are like, well, you're telling me not to play them illegally. Absolutely fine.
Fair.
However, you're not giving me a legal way to play them. So it's one of those tough marks as well. The other thing being released on the 26th, or supposedly, depending on how well Telltale keep to their schedules, like they don't seem to very much, is The Walking Dead season finale. Now, I have not played any of the season 3. I played most of season 2. I played all of season 1. That was all right. It's interesting. Played half of season 2. I think it was season 3. The finale, is it?
Do you mean season 4?
Is it season 4 we're on?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. Exactly. That just shows how little I know. So we've got the Walking Dead season finale. Now this has been, it's been heavily delayed, hasn't it?
Yes, obviously. No one is a stranger to the whole debacle with Telltale. after episode 1, it all kicked off and everything was delayed, and there's a lot of doubt as if they were actually going to be completing the game. Something I was specifically annoyed about after buying the full game, playing one episode, then potentially the concept of not getting the answer, the finale of Clementine after following her for what feels like a lifetime myself, really did concern me that this was just not just going to go unanswered and it was going to be dropped.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they have been able to continue it, and I don't feel that this season has suffered from the issues that the company has had, which was a relief.
So what? So the game it feels polished and it feels good and just as good as the priors. Obviously, with the whole issues in between and the delays, I mean, I personally would prefer a delayed game and it to be finished properly rather than them getting out the dates. So maybe the delayed dates are not necessarily a bad thing.
No, if it's helped them get the game out to the standard that they have done so far, then I'm glad they did do it that way.
Yeah.
Than phoned it in and just released a 75% finished level, because with what they've done in the past, anything lesser is going to stick out so badly without having that polished refinement, so that you get like the whole suspense of it, the drama and the build up with every episode that has like every episode has its own sort of little cliffhanger, like what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
If that isn't done properly, you're going to ruin your whole series.
Yeah.
And it's not going to keep the retention high for when the next episode comes out.
Yeah.
I have not noticed that with any of these episodes, really. We've had sort of the mid-season episodes where it might set a few scenes for a few things, a bit of a lull, which is to be expected. It can't be up all the time. You wouldn't want it to be, because it would then ruin the high points anyway. But I have definitely enjoyed this season. It's progressed nicely, a lot of ups and downs, and on sort of the story and where it's going. So I'm glad to hopefully going to play that very soon when it comes out.
Hopefully,
and,
as long as it's released on time.
Hopefully soon. But I said happy to wait. If they take another month, I'm not going to complain. As long as I get it, that's all I know. What happens to Clementine after all this time?
Yeah, that's actually a fact. And those both of those are released on the 26th of March. In more recent news, Pokemon, which 99.9% of the world's population should know about, is releasing Detective Pikachu this summer. Brilliant, absolutely perfect. Looks like a bundle of fun to me. What the producer, Ali Mendez, has said is that depending on how well this film performs, is they would like to open up to the possibility of a Pokemon cinematic universe. So sort of like can be associated, sort of like how the Marvel cinematic universe goes. They could all be intertwined. I think it's more probably looking at the bigger picture of the fact of if this live action Pokemon movie works well, is they could create more. Which is obviously that's quite exciting. It could be quite fun, or it could all go horribly wrong. I mean, so far from what I've seen of the trailers, the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie looks like it's going to be really good and really interesting, and funny. Deadpool is always...
Well, that was, for me, Detective Pikachu, when I first heard about it, I was like, oh my Christ, what... I was bitter and like just torn to bits when Pikachu spoke at the end of I Chose You. That is forever burned into my memory.
Yeah.
And then when I heard they're making a whole film based on a talking Pikachu, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But then after they sort of started to release more trailers and things, and then also they got the god that is Ryan Reynolds voicing him, I was like, I can get on board with this a little bit more. It's not going to be cheesy, sort of like light-hearted, like after school sort of...
I mean, yeah, they one of the things when Detective Pikachu was originally announced on on the 3DS is there was a massive uproar because everyone was saying he should be voiced by Danny DeVito, and the weird thing is they actually did some tests for him to play the voice of this Detective Pikachu in the movie.
I can't imagine it.
it's just one of those things. He's got such a decent and unique voice. It would be amazing if he did come across to it. But Ryan Reynolds is definitely not something to be snuffed at.
No, in the runnings, I'm sorry, Ryan Reynolds would always win. I know it's going to be hard to disassociate him with the voice of Deadpool, but it's his voice, his character. This needs to bring Detective Pikachu into a not too serious, but jokey kind of film.
It's like it's bringing it into sort of mainstream again. Obviously with all the Pokemon anime movies, don't get me wrong, they're all good watches. You can sit there and enjoy them, but you're never gonna hear about someone going to the cinema and going, "Oh, have you seen the new Pokemon anime film? It's incredible. You should definitely, all of your friends and family should go see it." It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
No.
So it's bringing sort of like these live actions can bring it into the mainstream. It could make it bigger, and then obviously if it does expand into a universe, it just means more films, more content, more Pokemon, which realistically no one's going to complain about. No, exactly. Not at all. The biggest bit of news is that on March 19th, Google announced their first ever or proper sort of console. I mean, it's called Google Stadia. And what it is, it's a gaming platform where all of it is streamed. So the idea behind this is that obviously you'd have your app on your phone or on your computer or on your tablet. You'd be able to connect up a controller to it or a mouse or a keyboard, and you'd be able to play some of the best AAA games for it that's possible. Okay, so they did an announcement and they did a display for this, and they showed what is possible, and they used Assassin's Creed as their sort of display, and it seems to work quite well. So the idea behind it is obviously it's all streamed to your device, and then while you're playing it, it's constantly being updated, so that you have the smoothest transition of play. Now, whilst extremely positive, means there's no downloads, mean you don't have to worry about patches, any of this going wrong, any of that going wrong. It will mean that you have to have a decent internet connection. So these games will run at 4K and at 60 frames per second. However, what they're saying is that you're probably going to need approximately a 25-bit per second download to maintain this sort of quality. Now, obviously, when they were on stage and they were showing everything off, it looks amazing and it works perfectly and it is great. But that is showing it some exact situations. There's a lot of people that still don't have the internet. There's a lot of people that have very limited internet.
Dial up.
Some people are in certain situations. The switching between games the screens, like going from your iPad onto your PC or onto then your phone, is it such an interesting thing to talk about, and it is so impressive as to what our technology can do, and it's great. Who wouldn't want that? But also, at what point would you need it? At no point have I ever been in my car playing on my Switch, taken my Switch indoors, and then just gone, "Oh God, I just wish this was on my computer now or on my TV." Don't get me wrong, that's the whole point of the Switch, is you can seamlessly switch between them. I personally have never used that. A lot of people do use that, don't get me wrong, but I've never needed it to switch. I don't know what it is. It's just not a necessity.
Until the Switch, like, no one knew they sort of needed or wanted it. Then they gave it to us and we're like, oh, okay, this kind of works. The whole seamless transition between console and other devices, it's just to make it's easier for people to game to an aspect. But again, going back to the whole streaming, obviously we've had a similar sort of trials before, back when PlayStation, they had that PlayStation
Now, which is still going, and that's sort of like that is an easy basic example as to how this works.
Exactly, that was, you were streaming a game physically with no download, and while yes, a lot of the time it did play flawlessly, but you would always, every now and then, you would get that error message that it's running slow, you need to save. Which depending on the type of game, isn't going to be an issue.
Yeah.
But you can just imagine it. You're in the middle of a boss fight, for example, Sekiro. Yeah. It starts lagging, going. It's just not gonna work, which is gonna cause a lot of frustration, and people aren't gonna go back to it potentially.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be sort of very specific on obviously location and where people use it, which again kind of takes away from the point of if you can use it on your tablet away from home and come back and your internet's not as great anymore from between locations, it's going to create that bit of a barrier.
Just thinking just straight off of that, my phone connection, I've got 4G. My phone will probably not be able to keep up with this, so I'm not going to be doing it on the move.
No.
So that means it's all going to be within my house. And if I'm within my house, I don't think I'd really want to be changing too much. I mean, other than when you're playing on you're playing on your TV and you then wanted to go to bed, you'd then maybe transition there. That is pretty neat and pretty decent. Giving people these options is absolutely great, and obviously it's better to have a feature than to not have a feature. That's what's important. There is obviously is it gives people these options, and if only 10% of the people that actually use this way of gaming, then I guess obviously it is a positive for those 10%. However, because they made it such a prominent feature, it's almost like this is what we're giving you. Look at our console, look at our way of gaming, which just doesn't stand out enough for me. They've got some good people behind them. Obviously, Assassin's Creed, having that as one of your showcase games is really good. Loads and loads
Everyone
and loads
knows.
of people know it here, who it is, know who play it. They've also had Doom, which is also coming to it. However, what they haven't done is they haven't done anything that makes me go, I want to get that.
There's nothing too new about this.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. They've got a good idea. The execution and how they do it will be what sells this.
Yeah.
But aside from that, the real life application of it may differ, or will definitely differ between people. And are mobile devices designed to handle this sort of gameplay? I can use my tablet an hour or two at a time while watching like YouTube and things before it's running out. Playing these 4K games on it, if I had the connection to do so, is going to rinse it in minutes. And even charge packs are amazing, but then you're practically carrying around a console at this point, the amount of technology you're carrying around with you to continue your gaming going.
I mean, it's a step in towards the future, isn't it? It's unfortunately, it's whether we like it or not, discs are sooner or later, probably in about 10 years' time, discs will be no more. When we get to the next console generation, they're probably going to be easing it out. Someone like Sony and Xbox and Nintendo, at the moment, I don't think whilst they're probably obviously concerned because it's more competition, it's always not a nice thing for them. But if they were looking at this, I couldn't imagine them being too sort of worried too much. But then again, at the end of the day, Xbox had to come from somewhere. Microsoft, all of a sudden, when they released the Xbox, they turned around and said, oh, look, we're releasing a console now. Here's our console. And look at it now. It's one of the top three. So it's something that is obviously very important and can shape the future of gaming in a certain sense. But it depends, like you said, on how well they execute it and how well it's brought out.
It seems very similar to a degree with what Xbox have with their sort of Play Anywhere system. The fact that certain games can be played on console and can be played on PC, which for a lot of people who do have multiple consoles or a game on a PC is ideal if their PC runs games better than their console does if they've had that sort of rig built for them. And it still allows them to obviously play with people who have got a console, so not limiting themselves and are opening that aspect up, which I feel is good. But do we need anything really more than that between devices? It'll be interesting to see how well or how many people are using it to its full capacity, sort of on the go on certain different devices, and how seamless the transition is between device, television, and things like that. Because that could be, if there's like a load screen and things, you have to transfer everything over, then I can see a lot of people.
Yeah.
People want things immediately these days, so it's going to have to be pretty seamless to keep up with that. Otherwise, it's just going to be.
Yeah. As someone that's a physical data hoarder, I prefer my discs over my downloads. Nothing about this at the moment for me is standing out too much, and it might be the same for a lot of other people. But
yeah, we've always had some form of physical item, whether it be
you always feel as though you own it then, at least.
Exactly, yes. With the downloads, all right, some games obviously are only on download, and that's just how it is. But again, you've got the whole, and thinking down the line here, you've got the whole sort of resale factor. Digital downloaded games, you can't then sell on if you get rid of your console and things like that.
That's something that one, they could introduce, but also chances are is what they'll do is they'll do a games as a service sort of thing, just like Xbox Game Pass, where they'll announce, you pay $15 a month and you get to play it all. And to be fair, like I haven't been able to get a hold of any prices or anything like that so far, but for all we know, that could be what it is, and it could be that we don't have to worry about online paying or any of that. Any of the issues that you get with these consoles is what they could do is they could just release it as £20 a month, play all of the latest games, stream them all to your devices. You don't have to have any setup, don't have to have any of this, don't have to have any of that. And then literally all you will own is the brand new controller which they've announced, which is the Stadia controller, which is not a very big name. I was going to say. But you just own that controller, and whenever you want to play a game, you play it. And you only have to pay £20 a month, and you've then got all the latest games. Absolutely everything's perfect, and everything will all be great. Which, realistically, there's nothing wrong with that. That sounds like a good business model, because
Netflix
then you wouldn't.
Video games.
Yeah, Netflix and video games. That would be absolutely perfect. But it's just it just depends on where you want to take it, where you as a gamer wants to take it. If I was in Google, if I was talking to Google and they said, "Oh, we're going to announce it now," I think what I would personally be saying is, "What are you bringing that these other consoles aren't?" Don't get me wrong, the streaming's all great, and the seamless streaming between the devices, absolutely perfect. Don't get me wrong, it's quite a cool, funky idea. But a lot of gamers don't care about how you play it, it's about what you're playing. And everybody is super PlayStation at the moment, because the amount of exclusives that they're bringing out that makes them go, come to our console. There is no God of War on the Stadia. Well, definitely nothing announced yet. There might be in the near future. You never know if Sony decided to sell those rights. But chances are people will buy an Xbox for their Master Chief Collection, or for Halo, or they buy PC as well for it, because obviously Microsoft own PC. People will buy PlayStation for what's it called? Last of Us, that's it. Oh god, that was a struggle. For Last of Us, or for God of War, or for the Nathan Drake collection, people buy this. People will buy a Nintendo Switch just for Mario Kart, and that's not even like the cream of the crop of what Nintendo have to offer.
No.
People will always buy these consoles for those specific games. What is this console offering us?
They need an exclusive, and I can't think of many developers willing to take that risk at this point.
That's a good point.
Literally putting their game onto one platform that has not been sort of in the market yet.
Yeah.
Well,
Google have a lot of money. So
they have a lot of money. Yes.
So at the end of the day, I'm sure some company that just wants the money, rather than the sales.
What company doesn't want money? But
obviously, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is if it is good enough and it is great enough, then it'll bring everybody across. Right. That literally wraps it up for this week. We should be back the same time next week with hopefully more news. Again, we'll be streaming Sekiro on Friday the 22nd at 5 o'clock GMT time. You're more than welcome to follow us on Twitter and subscribe here if you'd like to. Other than that, please feel free, leave us feedback, tell us what we did wrong, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much.
Bye.